Hello, my name is Diety, and welcome to our first episode of A Chat With, where we chat with personalities from art, entertainment, and business. In this episode, we chat with teacher, choreographer, house dancer, and friend Sekou. We caught up with Sekou on his Asia tour in Kyoto, Japan in 2017. After watching the footage, leave a comment below. Enjoy the footage.
My name is Sekou Heru, aka Tony Williams. I'm originally from Trenton, New Jersey, born and raised. And I'm a dancer. I'm a dance artist. I've been dancing all my life since the age of 2. First time I traveled abroad was to Japan in 1997. And that was the first time I left the country. And I've been coming back to Japan ever since. Oh, Japan has changed a lot, but you must grasp culture of Japan. The language is important, the more language you know, the better. It is to understand the Japanese feeling, and I would say that. And you must learn to use the subway. You must learn the transportation and be able to move on your own, or you'll always be a tourist. First professional gig was in 1987, and it was with a group called Banua. They made a house track called I'm Glad You Came to Me. And it was really popular underground, and we performed at the Zanzibar in Newark, New Jersey. These girls were originally from Trenton, New Jersey, and they were our friends. And they just kind of blew up and became underground vocalists. They always had the talent. That was the first professional gig. Second one was Gwen Guthrie, and I performed at the old Roxy at the time called 1018, 10th Avenue and 18th Street. And we also performed at the original Sound Factory. So, now I look back at that, that's a big deal. But I didn't realize then. The first memory that I have of dancing is 2 years old. And I wasn't sure, so I asked my mother and she confirmed it. I was actually surprised. And I said, well, how did you know I was dancing? Come on, babies move. And she said, you moved like a little old man. You were mature. You knew what you were doing. And I was like, at 2? She's like, yeah. So, wow, okay. So 2 years old is when it starts. If I could have one superpower, it would be the power to heal with touch. Wow. Or with thought. Because throughout my journey as a mentor / teacher, I find that people are very much trapped in themselves. They're prisoners in their own bodies. And I would love to help people find their way and heal themselves. I think that if people could heal themselves, if they knew that had the power to heal themselves, the world would be a better place. So that would be my contribution to making the world better. I decided to move to New York City at the age of 19. I had been going back and forth from the age of 17 and a half. And the person that convinced me and allowed me the opportunity to move to New York City was Voodoo Ray. And I moved in with him in his little box apartment on 73rd between Amsterdam and Columbus. And it was like a closet. It was a bed, a dresser, a closet, a refrigerator, and a couch. And that was it. And it was like a dormitory bathroom. Each floor had an outside bathroom you had to share. Disgusting spot. But I didn't care. I didn't care about that because he took me in like a brother. He taught me how to navigate the city. He helped, teach me how to hustle to dance. He was my mentor in a lot of ways without really realizing he was my mentor or taking credit for it. He was just the person that showed me unconditional love from day one. And without him, I would have probably never came to New York. So that one person changed my whole life. The first gig Voodoo Ray and I did professionally was, in terms of me and Voodoo Ray, professionally, was at the Red Zone for Two in the Room. Wiggle It. And they were already dancing, him and Marjorie, for Two in the Room. But this was a special showcase they did at Red Zone, and me, Voodoo, Ejo, and Brian Green performed with Marjorie as well. Wiggle It. Yeah.
What was your dream as a child?
Oh, as a child, my dream was to be a Shaolin monk, to study Kung Fu and to be a mystic and a sage. You know, I've always been attracted to the mystic arts and esoteric arts from a child. I don't know why. I never knew why. And I still am to this day. And I think that the dance for me is that mystic art, esoteric art. Before I dance, I usually dance on an empty stomach. I don't really take in food when I dance. I like to eat after my dance workout or my dance expression because I find that my appetite is much more hearty. And when I eat before dance, it kind of makes me a little lethargic. It doesn't sit right with my body, so I choose to eat after I move.
If you could share one memory of your mom with us.
If I could share one memory of my mother with you, it would be the time that I decided that I wanted to do this professionally. And I've been dancing my whole life. And this is actually when my mother reinforced and let me know how long I'd been dancing. I was about to audition for Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince for Public Enemy Tour in 1991. And the lineup was crazy. Ghetto Boys, 357, Leaders of the New School, Tribe Called Quest, Naughty by Nature, MC Light, Queen Latifah, Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, and Public Enemy. And I came to my mother and I was frustrated. And I said, you know, this is what I want to do. And I don't want to work for the state. I don't want to get a state job. I don't want to, you know, get fat and all these things. And I was just really frustrated. And I came and I said, you know, I never feel like you ever supported me in my dance. And she grabbed my face and she looked at me and she said, let me tell you something. She said, you've been moving since the age of 2. We knew that this is what you were here to do from that moment on. She said, in that basement, I've seen you do amazing things. She said, but you need to understand, you've been doing amazing things your whole life. I'm used to you doing amazing things. So for me, you doing amazing things is normal. For everyone else, it's not. She said, so don't ever think that I never supported you. She said, this is what you're here to do. And I guarantee you, when you go to this audition, this job is for you. Life growing up in Trenton. Well, I was born and raised in Trenton. And my grandmother's family, which is a huge family of 15, I've only met the second half, maybe the second 7 of my grandmother's siblings. My uncles and aunts, they all migrated to Trenton from Macon, Georgia. I was born there. My mother came up later and finished her last year of high school. And she had me very early. As soon as she got out of high school, she had me at 19. So my mother and I have a very closer dynamic than a lot of mothers and sons. My grandmother has always been in my life and has always supported my mother. So my grandmother was kind of like the big mama. Trenton was rough, man. It was a rough town. It was a fighter town, a boxer town. A lot of gangs, a lot of violence because of the conditioning of Trenton. But in the days of me growing up, I found the dance. You know, breaking was my outlet. You know, it was my sport, so to speak. It was my discipline. It kept me out of the street, you know, tempted to go sell crack or do a lot of the things because, you know, in the heart of the crack era in the 80s, you know, was crazy and all over the place, but especially in Trenton because sometimes small towns get hit harder. It's actually worse in a lot of ways. But as I got older, my partner in crime, my best friend, David Austin Kafele, my first dance partner next door to me, we would every day 4, 5, maybe 6 hours a day be in my basement breaking. trying to master a move for move. And so that was kind of like our saving grace. The dance kind of kept us. It gave us like a protective hedging, so to speak. Kept us out of all the bad element. And later on, as we got older, graduated high school, he went off to Temple University, and I decided that college wasn't for me, that I wanted to pursue the professional dance arena. But I was a dancer well known in my neighborhood. I mean, we would take the boombox and the tile when I was like 13, 14 years old, which is a stereo system of that time. And, you see a lot of reminiscences in movies like Do the Right Thing, where we literally walked around what we call the boombox on our shoulders or with our hands. And, that thing would need like 10, 15 batteries sometimes. But we didn't care. We take the linoleum and the cardboard. It's very interesting. We didn't go to studios, and we didn't realize that we were bringing a studio to the street. You know what I mean? When you think about it now, it's kind of amazing that we brought this linoleum and put the studio in the street. And we would go to different wards. In Japan, you have different areas called prefectures. Well, in Trenton, you had different wards, west, east, north, south. And I was from the west ward. And we would go to different parts of Trenton and battle crews, me and my best friend. And we became known as the Break Force. That was our name. And eventually, back in those days, shorties would just follow you around. Shorties we call little kids. They would just follow you around. You'd have like 5 or 6 little dudes or little girls like on your heels. Teach me how to do that, running around behind you. That just came with the territory. So we ended up training other kids how to break and how to keep from hurting themselves. And, that were problem youth and, might have had issues at home that we saw. And it was organic. We never thought that we were saving anyone or that we were being big brothers. This was just a culture when I was a kid. That's just the way it was. Nobody knew how or where. We just knew. And we did it. We had an instinct. It was more instinct than anything else. And yeah, dance has always been a part of my life. And a lot of the guys that I grew up with dancing, a lot of them don't dance anymore, but they're artists of other sorts. Poor Righteous Teachers is from Trenton, New Jersey. I went to high school with them. Wise Intelligence, we're pretty cool. We know each other for years. Like I told you, Benoit, we had some talent in Trenton at the time, and they respected us and knew who we were. And I mean, that's really it. Trenton was rough. Junior high school, I fought every day, bro. Like literally every day after school. That was the thing to do, and it was hard to avoid it. You had to fight in Trenton. There was no negotiating or, running away. One day you would get caught. You'd have to fight. So you learn how to survive and take care of yourself. And breaking made me really strong, So I just learned how to channel all of that anger and that frustration into my dance. And it became my discipline. Like some people went to study the martial art. The breaking was that art for me. Dance was that for me.
Talk about the transition from that time breaking to now ending up in the dance clubs. And the dance moves from dance to specifically house music. Talk about that transition.
Well, the transition from breaking hip-hop, original hip-hop dance to house club dance culture, street dance culture versus club dance culture. My best friend, again, we had an older brother friend. We called a big brother. His name was Troy. And he would go to Newark, to the Zanzibar all the time. And Kafeli would ride with him sometimes. And he was the first person to get into, at that time, what we considered house music. Colonel Abrams, all the soulful, classic R&B stuff that is considered dance music, we call house music. All of that for us in Chicago, New York, and New Jersey is house music. And so they were the first ones to influence me to come with them. And I was like, I'm not going, shoulder pass, Colonel Abrams. I was hip hop head, hip hop till you drop, hip hop don't stop. And finally, they had a DJ who came down to Trenton State College and they did a party. And Kaf was like, look, man, you need to come. This is the truth. So I came to the first house party and I think a lot of my generation received the house music from college parties first before we eventually started going into the clubs. So Trenton State College was the first place that I heard house music for the first time. And what I noticed was that nobody was watching nobody else. And in the hip hop clubs, we would all do a social dance, the same social dance, but everybody would add their flavor to it. Whereas you go to the house club or in a house music situation, like I said, and everybody was dancing totally different and nobody cared what anybody else was doing. And there was no competition. And, you know, people danced with each other, but they didn't have to. People danced with walls and danced with the speaker. And it was just, for me, right away, I knew it was something different. But I still wasn't quite a house head yet. Not until I actually went to the Zanzibar the first time did I start really liking house. But I became a house head. Interesting. There's a brother named Edmund Armando Space Green. We called him Space for short. He moved down from New York to Trenton and started going to school at Morgan University. And him and Peter Paul were roommates at Morgan University. And so he used to talk about this dude named Peter Paul all the time to us when he'd come home on break. And we was nice, you know, we was the dudes where we came from. So we were like, what? Talking about dude Peter Paul. Where he at? Yo, look, my boy Peter Paul will smoke all of y'all. He'll burn all of y'all. We was like, yo, where's he at? You talking all this stuff? He was like, all right. He goes to this place called The World. All the best dancers in New York hang out this spot called The World. We're going to go up this weekend. So it was actually a Thursday night, right? And we all packed up. All our homegirls and homeboys, we packed in like 4 cars deep. And we drove up to New York. First time. Me, Kaf, my girl Monet, Christine, Space, Tim, Dave, all my boys and homegirls. And we drove up and we got to the line and there was a drag queen at the door. And so back then, the drag queens at the clubs, the trendy spots that were open till 4 a.m, they called them trendy spots, were like the gatekeepers. So the thugs and the riffraff would see a drag queen, they wouldn't go in the spot. They would think it was gay place, but it was really open for all people. But the drag queen was the guardian, the doorkeeper. And so we got to the line and we were dressed a little conservative and he was looking at how everybody else dressed. And on the line, he started switching our costumes. You, take off that, put on his blazer. Say, put your belt around the blazer. Yo, give me your baseball cap. Yo, here, put this Band-Aid on your shoe. Yo, come here, do this, fix your hair like that. And he started styling us on the line while we were in line because he knew we looked too corny to get in. We looked too plain Jane. And that time, New York, you had to stand out. The more zany or outrageously you dressed, the more props you got for being courageous and breaking the rules of fashion. That was just the time. It was a Renaissance time. So lo and behold, he did all of that. We got right in. He called us, the drag queen let us in. I can't remember his name. It'll come to me. He's a popular brother. I can't remember his name right now. It'll come to me. And we got in the world. And so the irony of this is this. I walk up the steps. I get to the top of the steps. And the first person I see in a circle big as the damn club was Voodoo Ray and his partner Chino in the middle. And Chino was doing these back dives with both arms and both legs over and over and over again. He wasn't making a sound. And Voodoo Ray was spinning around the circle. So huge circle, but he was moving so fast. I was like, how is this dude not dizzy? And this was at the top of the steps, the first person I saw. The irony is this will be my best friend later. And then the second person I saw was Marjorie, dancing with a dude named Norris, who later on I got to know. And I didn't know him then. And when I saw her dance, I was like, whoa, it looked like Lindy Hop to me, but it wasn't. But the style was so fused with so many elements, but it was evolved. And when we came and hit that dance floor, we knew, whoa, okay, this is the truth. Whoa. And I mean, everybody in the club could get down. Like, it might have been 500 people on the spot, 3Hawk. And I'm very talkative now. But when I first came to the city, Marjorie, Voodoo, all my friends will tell you, in case you don't know, I was Mr. Quiet because I was around such strong personalities. When I first met them, I would just be, wow, he's funny, he's stylish, she's beautiful, they all dance good. Like, what is my role in this collective of people? And eventually I just realized that I'm the dude that's quiet. I'm the quiet guy. And so for years, I would just be quiet. And Voodoo would be like, yo, is he all right, Margie? I know he's cool, but he don't talk. Is something wrong with him? He's he never talks. He never says anything. He's always, is he okay? Everyone would think something was wrong with me. And, I say this to my students now. They go, nah, get out of here, dude. You talk for days. And I'm like, yeah, I talk now. But that grew in me to be able to express myself with words. The movement was my words for years. My movement was ferocious. I had no fear when it came to dance. But words, that took time. So that's something that people probably wouldn't know.
I hope you enjoyed the footage. Stay tuned for our second episode as we chat with Aaron Bailey, amateur boxer, as he goes pro in Japan. I've included Sekou's contact social media information below. Again, thank you for stopping by, and I hope that you are having a wonderful day.